some good news-ish out of Victoria. Now, you know and I know that regional Victoria has never had a problem in this, the fourth wave of coronavirus in and around Victoria, just like it didn't the third time, and it barely did the second time. Yet, because the police union told the police that they weren't going to have a ring of steel, and we couldn't be bothered actually trying to keep cases in the local government area of Whittlesea, that is the major problem here, with still more than double the number of cases as any other council district. Well, we know that there was no need for that area to be put into lockdown. And just 16 of Victoria's 79 council areas, I'm going to tell you every night during the lockdown, because you don't see this on the 6 p.m. news, you don't see this in the newspapers, 16 of 79 local government areas are the places that have coronavirus. Most low single digits, Whittlesea the only major one with 21. But thankfully, at 11:59 tomorrow night, part of the restrictions will be removed for regional Victoria. They never should have been there for a week, but you were sent to your room because this idiot wants to scare people.
And the public health team will work their hardest over the next 24 hours to make sure we have all the information we need to proceed with the easings of restrictions in regional Victoria from 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night.
I'll help you out, pal. There's no cases in regional Victoria. However, these are going to be some of the rules that are going to still apply. You still can't have your visitors at home in regional Victoria, despite the fact no one has the virus. You will still need to wear your masks inside anything but your home, despite the fact that no one has the virus. There will be limits on the number of people who you can have in the office. Depending on how big it is, it's somewhere between 20 and 50. So good luck if you're running a small business or medium business. For religious gatherings, only a maximum of 50 people, all of which who don't have the virus, in a suburb that doesn't have the virus, in a council area that doesn't have the virus, in a part of the state that doesn't have the virus. Only 10 people can get together outside, just 10 people at a wedding. Good luck for the June long weekend. And funerals can be listed to 50 people. They make it up as they go along. As for the rules in Melbourne, the magical Goldilocks science that says tonight you can't go further than 5Ks, magically, on Friday morning becomes 10 kilometres. Every kid should be going back to school, but it'll be just kids in year 11 and 12. Some outdoor jobs are going to be coming back, and this is a bit of a win. Remember, we spoke to Jim from Jim's Mowing last night about the absurdity that private workers who mow lawns couldn't do it, but council workers could. Well, thankfully, landscaping, gardening, maintenance, repairs, cleaning, also all of those things are going to be okay to work. You'll also be pleased to know you can get your solar panels installed, and pamphlet and advertising delivery, that vital service. That is resumed, but all kids, no, they can't go back to school. Now, despite the fact that, as we have told you, is the virus serious? Yes. But there's something very weird, and the data doesn't match the hype. Now, previously they told us that despite the fact that 76% cases are all in one area, put simply and principally northwest Melbourne, which means most of Melbourne should be opened up, but because the police have said that they're not willing to police this, instead, you know, they've got to go and knock on the doors of people who write nasty things on Facebook, apparently, you get the entire city locked down. Now, we heard before that this is such a crazy strain of the virus that if you brushed past someone, you could have got it. And within 24 hours, it would have shown its head. Well, we are now the best part of a full week after the lockdown started. Yet cases have not exploded. Has there been half a dozen here, 9 there? Sure. But the way that they sold this was that if we didn't have the lockdown, it'd be dozens, nay, hundreds sooner rather than later. Well, that just hasn't been the case. So when that became evident, we started a scare campaign from the Victorian government about the federal government not paying for anything. Then it was South Australia, because that's, of course, where the hotel quarantine case came from, despite the fact that that person left hotel quarantine, of course, with no virus and ended up turning up a couple of days later. So now the latest way to scare you, well, it's right from the playbook from 12 months ago.
If we don't do this, this thing will get away. This variant of concern will become uncontrollable and people will die.
Seriously. Now, right now, there is one person in hospital in Victoria and they are not in ICU. We hope that that's the case, and we hope that that situation doesn't get worse. But the way these people are talking, and remember, still banned in all of Melbourne at least, and we think all of Victoria, things like voluntary surgery. Now, non-urgent surgery can be things like hip replacements. They can be making sure that you can hear better. It's not just all about people who want to get lips slightly fattened. Other options were there, but I decided to play nice early in the show. So despite the fact that, okay, we need to lock everyone down, no kids can go back to school, now magically you can travel 10Ks, not 5Ks, because if we don't, everyone will die. Here again are the numbers no one will tell you on the 6 p.m. news, but I'll tell you every single night, because it actually shows you about the intensity of the spread. It's a trickle. 286,000 people have been tested for coronavirus since the lockdown started. So these are all the people who thought that they were sick or went to a place. They've all done the right thing. Only 34 cases have come as a result of that. That means just 0.01, I missed a zero, are testing positive to coronavirus. So again, remember, the total number of cases just 3 days into the Northern Beaches lockdown in New South Wales was 90. Nowhere near that, barely half that right now in Victoria. Yet a second week of lockdown for millions of people who live in and around Melbourne, most of which who live in local council areas that have no cases. It's ridiculous. But believe it or not, there are people who have started to catch on to what we have been saying since this thing started. And it's even being reported in that far right-wing website, The Turnbull Times. Because experts are disputing Victoria's claim of this particular variant is more infectious than previous COVID outbreaks. Now, I don't have any tape here, so I just want to read you what this expert who popped up in the Turnbull Times had to say. It's a professor who is studying and is obsessed with these sorts of diseases, works out of St Vincent's Hospital in Sydney. There just isn't any strong evidence this variant is more effectively transmitted than previous variants. There have been examples in previous outbreaks where a very short duration of exposure has then led to infections, such as the Baralla BWS cluster. See, you'd forgotten about that one, hadn't you? In New South Wales, where people went into a bottle shop for a short period of time, then they became infected. That's what's happening in Melbourne right now. Now, about why they keep using the language that they do, this expert says they're trying to do it to get people to go and get tested. But Professor Dawes says in the end, you have already seen community response in terms of testing, the best part of 200 and something thousand people? So I think the government needs to pull the language back a bit. I agree. So I get it. While the Labor Party in Victoria would be allergic to anything that's said by me or anyone here on Sky News Primetime, they have contempt for the people who they've locked up in regional Victoria for the past week, and they couldn't care less about the majority of people in Melbourne who, of course, don't have coronavirus and live in areas that don't have coronavirus. Pay attention to the professor. Feel free to Google The Guardian tonight, because this is way over the top. All kids must be back in school. They should be back in school from yesterday. But something makes me think that they're trying to drag it out until eventually we get to the school holidays, which means 2 weeks, 3 weeks of school disappears. Because, education, who cares, right?